Body anthem. Hello, everyone. It's your friendly neighborhood Aaron Martin here, coming at you
should by now.
Screaming into the void. This is episode 3. Unfortunately, as you can probably tell, I'm alone on this one. My friend Steve is with family at the moment, so right now it is just me. So I guess I'm going to have to take this time to discuss things that I currently want to talk about, or anything that you guys in the comments want to talk about. I'm totally open to either or. It'll give me something to talk about until he arrives. Unfortunately, I was not aware I'd be doing this until maybe an hour or so ago, so I'm doing this off the cuff entirely, so I haven't really had any time to flesh out a topic in my head as to what I wanted to discuss, besides maybe a few shallow topics, but nothing really too in-depth. So I guess I don't really have a whole lot to go off of, so I would definitely appreciate anything. This is the time to ask anything military-related if you want to. That's fine, but when my friend Steve comes back, when and if that is he comes back, I would ask that you please, at that time, refrain from doing so. But yeah. If there's anything you guys want to talk about, now's the time. But I think I'm going to talk about one thing that's kind of been bothering me. Or not bothering me, but something I've been noticing a lot recently. And that is just being as active on social media as I am, besides obviously the last 2 days because of Devil May Cry 5's release. I've noticed something pretty steady, and that, now maybe it's just me, but and that is temptation, right? So when I say these things, what I mean by that is this: temptation can obviously come in many different forms, but I think the main thing that I want to talk about when it comes to temptation is just, it could either be when you're in a relationship and you see someone either more attractive than your significant other, or possibly just you're envious of what somebody else has over you. It could be anything, really. But yeah, I mean, that's something that I kind of say. It was when I talk about these temptations, and I think this is mostly, now maybe I'm just speaking for myself here, but now I guarantee women are not really innocent in this, right? But when it comes to temptation, you get to see all these different people over social media, and again, you get to see these very attractive people. And I'm not saying this encourages people to do things such as cheat, but it's odd always thinking that there's something else out there. I would say that, at least me personally, I get to see, maybe that's what's the best way to put this, naturally I see people, or cheating is becoming more of a regular thing. Every single time that I have noticed people like tweeting about like either their last relationships, this, that, and the other, cheating is always something that happens at least once. You know what I mean? Like, it's very common that I see this now. Where I remember I saw a thread not so long ago where someone said, "Hey, talk to me about your worst relationships." Every single one of them has something to do with cheating. And I don't know why it's been bothering me so much, but it all goes back to the idea of temptation and always seeing what you believe to be somebody else. But at least I can say this for men because I am a man. It's just, I think that men on the whole, and this is going to be kind of controversial for me of all people to say, but men on the whole obviously think with the wrong head more often than not, and think of more of a short-term gain as opposed to a long-term loss. And I think that's what I tend to see more often than not, is they don't really get to know the person or think about the consequences of their action. It's all just about getting that short-term gain. So realistically, I've been trying to think about why this is, and I think it just goes back to what makes a man, which is hormones, really, and what gives him that drive to accomplish set things. So when I look at these things and I try to actually think about why these things happen, it just goes back to maybe control, the control that a woman has naturally over that part. I think women have more control over that aspect of their bodies and their minds, and men just don't. Either that or men just grow into that at a later age. Now, this is not all men. Obviously, I don't provide blanket coverage on anything. You guys know this. However, I would say that this is a decent portion of men, probably around my age, if not a few years up and a few years down. So that's kind of my opinion, but I have noticed cheating becoming either so common. Now, maybe that's just because, again, the world is as connected as it is, that I just see this more often than not. But what do you guys personally think? I would like to hear your comments on that. Do you think cheating is becoming more normalized, or just because the world is more connected. It's just more prevalent. You can see it, but it's not happening more. It's just more in your face. What do you guys naturally think about that? Personally, I think it's not necessarily becoming more normalized. I think it's more in your face, but it's definitely more, maybe I'm retracting myself, but it's definitely a bit more common than before, but maybe not as bad purely because it's in your face naturally. I don't know. Does that make sense how I'm trying to say? It's a bit more, but even still. Also, yes, I appreciate all the support that you have been giving me. I don't want to butcher your name. I'm sorry. It looks like it's pronounced Aisha. Aisha, it looks like. I'm sorry. However it's pronounced, for the future, please do not ask for shoutouts unless you just want me to refer to your comment. I don't give shoutouts on my main channel or anything like that unless I personally feel the need to. Just simply asking for it's not the way to go about that. It's a little disrespectful. So, yes, I appreciate the support you've been giving me, though. Thank you very much, but please, for the future, do not do that. Anyway, so this is kind of that time to ask me these things that you want, but Blue, I'll answer your question because now's the time to do so. Thoughts on Nero being a lizard man growing his arm back? So that's spoilers for the game. I don't know how many people have any interest in playing the game. I mean, I won't lie, I called 50% of that moment. I thought he'd grow back his original arm, if you know what I mean. I didn't think he'd grow back a natural human arm. So I guess I was wrong. So I was correct on half of that, not all of it. I called a good portion of the game, which I find to be absolutely hilarious. But it is what it is. So yeah, it was funny. If I'm going to speak a bit more on that topic, I'll just straight up say it, so I don't have to spoil it for a stream. It's not spoilers, but it's something that bothers me. I do not like Nero's Devil Trigger at all. It's awful. I hate everything about the design. Now, I understand it's made to look more human because he's 75% human, 25% demon. He's quarter demon, so maybe that's why it doesn't look as demon-esque as Dante's and Virgil's. I understand that. But, man, maybe it'd be better if he didn't retain his white hair. Everything about it, I just don't like it. I don't know if it's the color design. I don't know if it's the fact that he looks like Raziel from the Legacy of Kain series, if you guys remember that series. But, geez, man, I just don't like it. I don't know what it is about it. I just don't like it. But I'm glad they brought back the original use of the Devil Bringer with it, because the only thing you could really use to simulate up until that point was the one arm attachment, which I'm using in this game. Actually, I find it to be one of the more useful ones, one of my more favorite ones to use. Overture, the Devil, I don't know which Devil Breaker it is. I think it's just called Devil Bringer, and Gerbera are awesome. I also do enjoy using the Rocket Arm from time to time, and the Pasta one as well. There are I haven't experimented with all of them yet, but those are my fairly standard loadouts. I usually take 2 Overtures, or I believe that's what it's called, right? And at least 2 of the Devil Bringers, and then 1 Gerbera, and then whatever else I'm feeling. But I usually take 2 of them. It's the most expensive one in the game. It's $3,500 a piece, which is pretty high, all things considered. But I still think it's worth it, because if you don't break it, it can deal out large amounts of damage, like Nero's original loadout from the 4th game, which is insanely high to compensate for his lack of basically everything else. Movement speed, swordplay, everything else with him just felt way slower and just lagging. So, yeah. Thoughts on John Wick 3? I didn't see John Wick 3. I saw the first one actually when I was at work. Now, I didn't get a chance to hear it with sound because we didn't have any speakers. It was just playing. We don't have speakers. We just had subtitles. But from what I saw of the first movie, it was phenomenal. I really enjoyed it, and that was without sound. So I can imagine I would definitely enjoy it with sound. So when the time comes and I actually get to that point, whenever it may or may not be, I definitely will go back and probably rewatch the series. I don't know if 3 has released yet. I know 2 did. I think 3 is still in production, though. I could be wrong. I remember reading up on the series a little bit after I watched the first movie, so feel free to correct me on that. The movie is still in production, or if it's finished production, it's just waiting for a rollout date. I don't know. So feel free to just correct me on that if anyone wants to do a quick Google search for me. By the way, I appreciate you guys coming out here. I know without my partner in crime, it's a little bit boring because I'm not really discussing anything too serious. I don't have anyone to bounce my ideas off of or just my thoughts at the moment. The only other thing I was really trying to discuss, because again, I only had a few hours to rifle through these topics, not even a few hours, a few minutes to rifle these topics in my head, was just the idea of monotony of day-to-day life and how that intertwined with connectivity in social media can be very damaging to the brain. And it all goes back to the idea of temptation and comparison. So what I mean by that is, so when you factor in how day-to-day life can be very boring and it's very hard to get out of that groove, especially when you're made to exist within that rhythm, work, what you enjoy out of it, things like that, and only maybe it gets changed every once in a great while. And then you add in the fact if you see people on social media who have these, what look to be on the surface, great lives, whether it be dating, whether it be anything else they may or may not have, you just feel the need to compare because you want these things. Now, obviously, you shouldn't naturally assume that people on social media have the lives that they're posting about, because as one of my favorite things go, no one's posting their failures, or they're only posting them when success follows. So, I failed here, but now I'm succeeding. It's because of this failure I learned, yada, yada, yada. We all see those posts, but no one just says, hey, I messed this up today. That's it. Naturally, or it's all about a greater lesson. But in and of itself, no one's really doing that. I suppose... Hold on. Let me catch myself for a second. Recollect. So I suppose when it comes to that, I have found that...
Reminder, you all left Apex
all from
to play
social
that.
media can be extremely mentally damaging, at least in my mind, because our generation was kind of like the guinea pig for the social media phenomenon. And while a lot of us have taken it as in stride, quote unquote, when you realistically think about it, and I've tweeted about this before, how many people day to day are joking about literally wanting to kill themselves or wanting to die on a daily basis? And a lot of us just say it's jokes, it's this, it's that, but for a lot of people, I don't necessarily believe that. A lot of people I genuinely believe would take that opportunity if they could. And that's the depressing part of it, is just that it seems like almost everyone I've come in contact with in some shape or form is depressed. Now, we're also in the danger of overanalyzing and labeling everything as depression or some form of social or mental disability, which we shouldn't do that either, because it takes away from the issue, much like the idea of labeling everything as racism, but that's a different topic. It takes away from the real issue at hand. Regardless of that, one of the things that I've always made the point of is just, every day it's just, I'm sad, I hate my life, I hate this, I hate that. And I don't know, it's naturally depressing to see. What do you mean you have an overlap of me? Nothing else should be making noise right now. Yeah, the gameplay was making noise in the stream. I fixed it. You could probably hear the button clicks and me getting frustrated. I fixed that. My apologies. Now the gameplay should be totally muted. Anyway, Steve right now is with cousins and family. He's handling he's just hanging out with friends and family. He went to an escape room, and then now he's hanging out with his cousins. He should be back at any time. Blue, actually, this is an open invitation if you want to join me in Lords right now to talk and add some more to this topic. You are more than welcome to do so, because I would like the company at this moment. It's always hard to just try and be not necessarily progressive with your podcast or your ideals, but when you don't have anything to bounce them off, you don't necessarily achieve anything purely because the only one talking is you. So I'm not saying you always need to be somebody else there. There's nothing wrong with getting on your soapbox and preaching, but I like the idea of bouncing things off other people and discussing things, but that's just me. Does anyone else have anything for me? Just let me know. Understood. Well, at least the invitation was there. I guess I'll have to keep you guys company by myself until he comes back, which I don't know when that's going to be. So it sounds like it's going to be up to me to keep you guys busy, and honestly, I don't know how I'm going to do that for a prolonged period of time. I can ramble, but it's going to be relatively incoherent. I'm not very good at recollecting my thoughts on my own unless I have someone to keep me in check. Happens quite often. Mostly because whenever I have these rants, someone's usually A, cutting me off, which happens pretty often, if not all the time, or B, I lose my train of thought and have to like collect and rewind myself because of my mind moves faster than my mouth, which is amazing when you consider how fast I talk. So, here we are again. I hope you guys enjoy the Devil May Cry gameplay that you guys are looking at right now. My goal is to, for the next podcast, do the rest of the game, or most of it. I think I'm playing, this gameplay is on Son of Sparta mode. At first I played it on human, so I can experience the story and get the new mechanics down, because it had been a while since I played a DMC game outside of 4. And then I went from human, skipped Devil Hunter, and went straight to Son of Sparta. And that's what this is on right now, which I think is the mode directly before Dante Must Die, and then probably Heaven and Hell, and Hell, and all that other nonsense, I'm assuming, which come after. If not, they'll probably add them in future DLC. Heaven and Hell being where you and enemies die in one shot, then Hell and Hell being where you die in one shot, and enemies are stronger than ever. I'm assuming that'll get added. That was in DMC, Devil May Cry. I don't know if it was in Devil May Cry 4 or not. I think it was. But, when it came to who was starring in the game, sometimes I got myself, which was pretty funny, and I got randoms as well and some other folk, and I got the DMC crew as well. Yeah, I was pretty surprised by that. I liked his advanced form, or his Sin Devil Trigger form, I think they're calling it. I really liked the what is it called? The Devil Sword Dante or Demon Sword Dante, whatever they're calling it now. I think it's Demon Sword Dante. I am kind of sad to see Rebellion go, especially because Yamato still exists. But, like, he didn't lose anything for doing what he did. But, I mean, it makes sense how Dante lost, purely because Virgil sacrificed all of his power, or his human side, and then was literally draining the life out of every living thing in sight to gain demon power. So it makes sense as to how he gained strength and was able to overpower him using Yamato. It does make sense. Doesn't mean I'm happy about it, but, I mean, your hero can't win every time easily every time, then you have no story, so it makes sense. Doesn't mean I like seeing my favorite character get whipped, but even still, there's that. When it came to being able to use that form, I was pleasantly surprised. I found that a lot of Dante's abilities are great, and I still have a lot more to play around with. His favorite form that I have is definitely the Swordmaster. I love Swordmaster probably the most. I do also probably like Gunslinger. Royal Guard I've not really well versed in at all, so I need to find a way to actually make that form useful. So then there's Royal Guard and then Trickster. Trickster can be great if you master it. If not, it just looks like a bunch of ramble, incoherent button pushing in hopes to teleport somewhere useful, which, again, that's kind of what I do. When it came to gameplay mechanics, I found that Nero was much more fleshed out, and that was great. He needed that design, and I like how even at the end when he gets his arm back, he can still use the Devil Breakers, which is good. And then as far as V goes, V was phenomenal. I loved his gameplay. The only thing I hated about it was using the pets against high mobile enemies like the horse boss was absolutely annoying because the pets move slow and he was constantly running back and forth across the map, so getting a hit on him was annoying as hell, and their health is also very slow, or very small. So naturally I found myself rezzing them quite often in boss fights, but against normal demon hordes, I could use Griffin's Electrical Storm attack and V-Cut while also using Phantom's Porcupine and Guillotine in combination and keeping them levitated. Finishing enemies in midair as V is so much fun because it adds a sense of, I don't know, it just adds more to it, being able to lift them in the air and finish them off in midair. It's a lot of fun. I found his gameplay to probably be the most fun out of all three, believe it or not. Nero, probably a close second. The reason Dante's in third, and that's probably weird for me to say, is because Dante's gameplay on the whole from the last game hasn't changed too much. It's pretty standard. They added new things to him, and it's not bad by any means. I'm definitely not saying that. It's probably better than it's ever been. But when it comes to making additions and then adding something new, when it came to when I was having fun, I felt the most rewarding feelings coming from using the pets, because there's so many things mentally you have to consider. Using 3 different button combinations linked to one less stick to control 3 different animals, which I found at first to be incredibly challenging, but once you did it, it was amazing. See, yes, during Human Blue, my pets basically never died. When you played on Son of Sparta, however, you'll find that to be a very different story very, very quickly. So be ready to res them and know how to move as V on your own without relying on Griffin, because Griffin's health pool is the smallest next to Shadow, and then obviously Nightmare is invincible, so that doesn't matter. So you'll need to be able to move without Griffin. Always be ready to do so, because he's very easy to put down, especially in a boss fight. And then when it came to the boss fights as V, up until where I'm at in this gameplay, the horse was not as annoying as his predecessor, which was the Needhog. He was annoying because levitating enemies sucks, because it basically neutralizes Shadow, who is your main, basically, DPS character. I hate that I throw Overwatch in there, but either way, then you rely on Griffin solely. Griffin's more of an annoyance and a pecker, while Shadow is your main attack form. So when you don't have that, when you take away your main power, you're limiting it to basically needing to put them on the ground, which they're rarely ever on the ground, and then waiting so you can Devil Trigger and use Nightmare. What's my absolute favorite video game? Devil May Cry 1. And that's the reason why the Devil May Cry series is my favorite. So I'll put it into perspective for you guys, right? Devil May Cry 1, the very first one, released on PlayStation 2 in 2001. I was 6 years old, probably 5 years old at the time of release. I beat the game as a 5 and or 6 year old. Granted, it was probably on easy automatic, so the game essentially plays itself for you, but that's not the point. I did it as a 5 or 6 year old, and the cutscenes, the cinematics, the CG at the time, the graphics, where sure, by today's standards, aren't that great, obviously. It's a 2001 PS2 game, but as a 6-year-old, that kind of stuff sticks with you. And then even when I got older and I didn't get the other games, that game never left my mind. I don't know why, but something about that game stuck with me, whether it be the first boss, Phantom, or the first time you can Devil Trigger with Alistair, or anything like that. Those things never left me. And then when I was finally able to pick it up again, years later, I remembered why I loved it so much, and I didn't even pay attention to the graphics. And this was not the HD collection. I picked up a PS2 to play it again. And I noticed that. And then I played the second game. Wouldn't recommend it. Easily the weakest entry in the series. Looking up a YouTube video if you're curious. Don't play it. But then 3 came along, and oh my god, 3 is great. Story-wise, it's a masterpiece. Gameplay-wise, it's damn near flawless. It's a very, very good game. I would highly recommend it. And then personally, 4 was great gameplay-wise. Nero was a little lacking, but the Devilbringer evened him out in terms of power. It just made his gameplay a little slow because his sword movements were pretty basic. He's not that good of a swordsman, but he made up for that in the power department. Dante was every aspect that you want him to be. He was broken, but he was supposed to be. He was legions above everybody else. When you mastered him, nothing was a challenge. But that's kind of what the game was going for. He was supposed to be that broken. And then the only thing that sucked about the game was its replay value. Not replay value, its replayable levels. You go through half the game as Nero, and then you backtrack the rest of that game as Dante, just cleaning up Nero's mess. You didn't really experience anything new as Dante, just rehashed levels designed differently. It felt lazy, but the game had very little production time, so I understand why. I just wanted more personally. Thoughts on King Cerberus? I love the references. If you put the two cutscenes together, how Dante and the original Cerberus act, it's amazing to watch how he literally says, that leash looks short, come on boy, you want to go for a walk? He says it almost the exact same way in Devil May Cry 3. It's hilarious, the fan service. And then, guys, I have to spoil this part of the game for you. I don't know if any of you care, but when you fight against these pets that are based on Devil May Cry 1 enemies, and the original music hits but it's been remastered, and you're fighting them and they reference all the parts of that game and everything, just my nostalgia, my love for the series hit a freaking high. I damn near shed a tear. I'm not joking. Because that game was so underappreciated in the series. There's a reason why 2 isn't referenced, and that's because 2 sucked. 1 set the tone for this series. When they reference Malay Island, Griffin, Shadow, Nightmare, the bosses, Serving Mundus, Virgil's time as Nello Angelo, Ultraviolet, like all these things they bring back, and it's fantastic, the fan service. It was amazing. I couldn't get enough of it. I replayed that mission after I beat the game purely for that, because to just hear Dante and those enemies reminisce, and they actually have them fight Dante purely to A, finally get their rest, and B, to hopefully that they can put an end to Virgil's suffering. They didn't want to kill him. They actually wanted to make sure he could do it, which, believe it or not, was amazing. Instead of just being sociopaths out for revenge, they actually gave meaning to what they were doing, which I thought was amazing. What is my favorite movie? Oh, that's a hard one. I have a lot of movies I really love. Game is easy for some reason for me, but movie, I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of movies I love. If I had to pick an obvious favorite that I could always watch if I want to, Tommy Boy is a good one. But I think we all have a few, like, we go between. What do you got? What about you guys? So when these questions are asked, what's your favorite games? What's your favorite movies? I want to try and keep this discussion as integrated as possible to keep the discussion going back and forth. Because if I refrain from, or if I hit a creative stump and I'll stop talking, I'm afraid I don't know where to get back on course. And since I'm alone in this venture, me talking is all you got. And I want to make sure you guys actually have a reason to be here and listen to what I think is incoherent rambling at this point. So please, by all means, throw anything you want at me. The Harry Potter series? Now, just the series in general or a certain movie? Because there's, 6, 7 of them? I watched all of them, actually. I didn't read the books. But I watched all of them. I actually watched them with my grandmother. And I actually thoroughly enjoyed them. More than I thought I would. The Lord of the Rings series and the Hobbit series. Good movies. Storytelling's phenomenal, but they're just too long for me. I could just never find it to just sit down and watch those movies start to finish. There's just too much to it. Now, maybe it's because I was a kid and I had the attention span of a goldfish, and realistically that hasn't changed at all. I just, focus when I have to. But yeah, that's kind of how I felt about the series. I cannot deny what it's done. I cannot deny its amazing way of telling stories. I just don't have the attention span for it, man. Something about it just never did it. The medieval setting has never done a whole lot for me as is. Now, I know it's not medieval, but that style, the aesthetic, and the idea behind it never really intrigued me too much. But that's just me personally. But I'm not going to rip on it purely because I don't like it. I still give it credit where it's due. And that's the important thing when it comes to critiquing any creative medium, is differentiating between giving extended feedback or giving real feedback and then just criticizing to criticize. Giving it what it's due and then just criticizing because it's not your thing, so you think it's trash purely because it doesn't fit your fancy. An extra half hour long on top of what is already, 3 to 4 hours? Maybe longer? They're long movies. They just don't do it for me. Maybe one day I'll actually sit down and get back into it. Well, I wouldn't be holding your breath on that one, but still, who knows? I've actually found myself talking an extensive amount. It's only been a half hour. But I appreciate you guys coming out and talking to me. I hope I'm able to entertain you enough until I actually have my partner here with me. whenever he may be showing up. Hopefully, if not, then, well, I guess this is a special episode. I guess I need to learn how to do this at some point. See, it's easy when you're a streamer because you can hide behind the gameplay as a way to focus. But in this case, I can't do that. I have to be focused on the topic at hand. Although I do find myself getting distracted by the gameplay you're currently watching because all it makes me want to do is turn the game back on and go play it. I've only maybe stopped to play Apex with a buddy a few times. I actually got a win earlier today. But yeah, that's about it. And what games do you like? Is there anything in particular, a series or a type of game you like? Things you'd stay away from? You know, what's your niche? Your niche, whatever that word is, that fancy word. Have I seen DBZ Abridged? Of course I have. Have I seen all of it? No. Have I seen a good portion of it? Yes. Hoopla! What's up, man? What's up, that one guy? Whenever I think of Hoopla, I just think of that episode from SpongeBob. Whole lot of hoopla! Just hits him in the head with a brick. You know, guys, this is a little bit of a off-topic one real quick, but before I go on that tangent, you like adventure games? Okay. I don't know what your feelings are for some games, but I would definitely say if you can afford it, possibly I would say Zelda Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey for the Switch. I think those would definitely fill that niche for you if you have a Switch. If that's not an option, I can definitely think of other things. But I know those games are very well story driven and had a lot of replay value. But that's just my personal thing. It's a Chaozu. I'm gonna catch it. Nappa throws a Pokeball at Chaozu, just hits him in the head. Ah, Vegeta! It didn't work. That's because you're supposed to weaken it first, Nappa. Oh, right. I remember that. It was fantastic. They actually animate him like blowing up a Pokeball in his hand, and then it hits Chaozu in the head. But yeah, if to fill an adventure niche, especially for a family-friendly game or just a rated E game that's not too pressing, I would recommend those games. A lot of replay value, a lot of story. So, I mean, they're definitely good ones to throw out there if you have the money to get a Switch. I would recommend those personally. And that's coming from someone who hasn't played them, but I've heard from the reviews how good both of those games are. I heard almost nothing bad. And if you really want to secure a bet, Pokemon games too. If you've ever played a Pokemon game, it's a must-have anyway. The purpose in this game, well, believe it or not, Devil May Cry is heavily story-driven, but basically the entire purpose of the game is to just slay demons in the most creative and stylish way possible to max out your stylish meter, and that's basically it. Yeah, slay demons and look good while doing it, man. And these games are heavily story-driven, whether you want to believe it or not. It's just hard to believe that because you can't hear and or see anything. No, Blue, stop it. No, don't play Dark Souls. Don't do that. Do not do that. Blues, knock it off. Don't you dare tell her that. Dark Souls is a punishing game that's completely BS unfair and mean. Don't do that. Blue, knock it off. Quit being mean to the young. You're not supposed to do that. Be mean to people who can take it. She doesn't know better. Dark Souls is a completely unfair game. If you want examples, YouTube it. Don't waste your money on it. Have you ever watched Aliens vs. Predator? The movie? I want to say I have, because my dad had it, but it's been a long time since I watched it. I know for a fact that I thought they were good, but still. I know you've played Dark Souls, Blue. I know you know what they are. It doesn't mean that you should suggest a relatively new gamer or someone looking for a comp act or adventure game to play Dark Souls. That's like giving a kid who wants to play with Nerf guns a freaking 44 Magnum. It's not how it works, man. It's going over the top. It's unnecessary. Don't do that. I didn't play the game. Don't play Bloodborne either. That's even worse. Blue, knock it off. You're being terrible right now. This isn't Devil May Cry. We're not trying to teach the kids through pain. Yes, it is an adventure game. I understand that. The other caveat to what I said is a relaxing or fair adventure game. Both of those words don't fit Dark Souls descriptions at all. Quit trying to defend it. Come on now, you know better. I'm not denying they're not adventure games. I'm not denying they're good games. It's just they're not for new gamers or people who want a fair adventure game. He went to a Nerf war and someone brought a paintball gun. What a jerk. It's me. I'm that guy. Oh, man. This is more like basically just a live interaction session. Blue, no it's not. Dark Souls isn't fair if you know what you're doing. A lot of people have said that still lose and die. It's made to be unfair. Designed to be mean to new players and designed to be punishing at every possible point. No matter how good you think you are, it's still punishing. What places do I want to visit? Good question. I would like to personally visit Italy, Germany, and Switzerland, if I can. And believe it or not, some parts of Russia, I'd like to see Chernobyl. Believe it or not. That's my personal thing. What's going on, David? How are you? And Blue, the only reason you think it's fair is because you know what to expect. You're a gamer. Based on how she's acting, or not how she's acting, what she's saying, it sounds like she's not, at least not to the extent that we are. To you, it's fair. To everybody else, including me, who is a seasoned gamer, who knows how BS Dark Souls is, it's not. Okay? Your opinion does count, but it's only fair to you. Besides, you make it sound like they're bad games. The Dark Souls games are not bad games by any means. I would actually really have contemplated playing 3 numerous times. I just know I'd never get around to it. Or I wouldn't play to the extent that I should. And it's just not worth my money or my time. But they're not bad games by any means. They're just, not for me. I definitely should have gotten a drink before I sat down and started doing this. I didn't realize how much I'd be talking. It's only been 38 minutes. It's absolutely phenomenal. Been able to keep you guys busy. And this is all off the cuff. Besides the fact that I've had maybe one of those 2 topics offhand, and I've already not talked them into the ground per se, said everything that I can without someone to bounce back ideas and take it into a different course. Have that springboard action, if you will. It's kind of run its course, personally in my mind. What 2 things would I take with me? Oh, God. Let's see. Gotta think this one through. Well, kind of. What would I take? Well, I'd probably take a sat phone and batteries. That's what I would take. Either that or sat phone and a signal booster. That's probably what I would take. Offers 2 things. connectivity, and coordinates geolocation, meaning they'd be able to find me based on my signal. You know, insert that meme of the guy pointing his fingers at his head like, yeah, thinking things through. Yeah, I would agree. If you're a somewhat of a gaming masochist, Dark Souls is for you. If you enjoy being told you died or you are dead every so often, that's kind of what it's like. You're gonna get that message a lot. I kind of figured you weren't a gamer, and there's nothing wrong with that, and don't worry about it. But when I tell you not to play Dark Souls or Bloodborne, I absolutely 100% mean it. Don't do that. Because that's not something that as a new gamer you want to get into. You're jumping into just a heaping mess of nonsense. That's completely unfair and designed to be unfair. Even someone who's been playing video games all their life doesn't want to touch that. I would sooner play Devil May Cry on Dante Must Die or Hell in Hell than do that. What games am I looking forward to the most? Let's see. I mean, honestly, the only thing I truly wanted right now... I mean, I wanted Devil May Cry more than anything. I've been waiting for Devil May Cry for 11 years. So, I mean, that's all I really want to play for now, especially when, for the DLC, when they bring back the Bloody Palace and maybe some story DLC. Maybe. I hope for it. If not, it is what it is. But if not, I'm looking forward to see what the Call of Duty release is, because no one can seem to get a set answer. It's going to be Modern Warfare 4, or if it's going to be Modern Warfare 2 Remastered, which I hope that's what it is. But at the same time, I get the feeling that because of the whole fact they don't want to remaster it, or remaster the online, then there's no point. Now, I have to agree, but at the same time, I don't. So, let me explain. Modern Warfare 2, like some games, I don't want to be remastered. And there's a reason for that. Because of the way the industry is now, where microtransactions and all that nonsense is basically in everything, it ruins games. It really does. Microtransactions are in Devil May Cry, for God's sakes. The only reason I haven't even noticed them is because I haven't wasted all my gold orbs or dying. Now, granted, the game was designed literally to make it so you never have to use them unless you're absolutely crap at the game. Like, you're terrible at it. So you really shouldn't have to worry about it. I think the designers did that to where they can make it as limited as possible. Because I'm going to guess the designers didn't want to put it in the game. Their publisher made them, because the publisher has the final call on that decision. So realistically, that's my personal thing. But, yeah, I don't want them to touch it, because some things you shouldn't touch. Some things are sacred. Modern Warfare 2 is one of those games. It's sacred. Don't touch it. Because if they do, Activision's going to try and monetize it. They're going to put microtransactions in it. They're going to put loot boxes in it. And it's going to suck balls. Don't do it. Just don't do it, man. Please. Just, we have families. Don't do that. We do all that. My most hated video game? I mean, there's never been a game I've played that I've outright hated. Personally, I mean, I can't really think of them. I think when it comes to games that I didn't necessarily hate, but I was extremely disappointed in, and this is a controversial game if you're a gamer at all. Blue, you'll know this one. Back in my day, holy crap. Back in the day, I used to be a major Sonic fan, and I think everyone already knows where I'm going with this. Sonic 06. The game that looked like it was going to revolutionize the Sonic franchise. It's not a hated game by any means. It was just so disappointing. Because I expected so much better from them. The trailers, the graphics, everything for the time looked beautiful. It looked like a dream come true for a Sonic fan to see all their characters in those next generation graphics. It was something to be said. And it was just the biggest letdown ever. Controls were crap. Everything about it was just bad. Glitches, map breaks, you just died so unfairly. Nothing about it seemed fair. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. I expected so much better. It's not worth playing. Honestly, it's not. The game is... I respect the vision the game had. I do. I respect it. I respect the ambition that Sonic Team had trying to attempt, but they were just too ambitious for their own good. And that's kind of what happened with Halo 2. Halo 2 was going to be much bigger than it was supposed to be, if you guys didn't know that. Halo 2 was going to be... had so much cut content from it that it could make Halo 3, if you guys didn't know that. Now, Halo 2, in my opinion, still is the best Halo game in the franchise. Don't fight me on that. You'll lose, I promise. But the reason I say those things is because when you look at the game's files, everything in it, Bungie was looking to make the biggest game at that time. But it got cut due to time constraints and the fact that the game needed to be out at a certain time. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of my opinion on it. I don't know. I guess I just wanted more from that game in Halo 2, but still. Oh, the Werehog game? Yeah, we don't talk about that one. Yeah, Sonic 06 was not great. Again, I respect the vision behind it. Shadow the Hedgehog, the only reason that game was so stupid is because it had that stupid ending system where you got like 20 or 30 different endings, and then you had to get the definitive ending. Having to replay the same nonsense over and over again to get only minute details in the dialogue and cutscenes to get the real ending, which was awful. Who thought of that? I didn't think it was bad because it had guns. I didn't think it was bad because it was PG-13. I didn't think that. I respect them again for trying something new. Just holy mother of God. Whoever's idea was to have that different endings crap should have been fired. It was stupid. Everything about that was stupid. Halo, not the best. I really got to disagree with you on that. Halo set one of the original games that set the framework for the FPS genre and multiplayer. Halo Combat Evolved is honestly referred to as almost a perfect gaming masterpiece, besides a few minor flaws, most of them being level design repetition and gun balancing issues. Halo 2 was revolutionary for introducing online gameplay in FPS. It played amazing. I was SWAT Jesus, the one-shot headshot mode. That was my mode. You did not come up and mess with me on my mode. I will kick you back down where you belong. That was mine. You didn't touch me in that mode. I was king in SWAT. It didn't matter who you were. But joking kind of aside, Halo 2 came out, let's see. Halo 2 came out in 2004. And I think Halo 3 came out in 2007 or 2008. And 3, while looked at as largely as the best in the series, I do not agree. That's just me, though. I don't think it's the best. I think 2 is the best. 3 probably had the best balancing and the best, overall feel for the game. But still. There are more than 10 Halo games. However, there's only 5 major entries. Well, 6, technically. So there's Halo Reach, Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo 4, and then Halo 5 Guardians. And then you have the Halo Wars series, and then the other nonsense that goes with it. Spartan Assault and whatnot. If I played Assassin's Creed, I've only played up to 2. 2 was phenomenal. I've heard a lot of bad things after the series went from 2. And the fact that the series is still going on, I mean, they still make great games, but I'm kind of worried. Like, I think the series should die. It's been going on way too long. And unfortunately, unlike Call of Duty, it doesn't have the cash cow behind it to justify keeping it around. I mean, I don't know how much money the series makes, but it's definitely not as much as Call of Duty. So where that series can justify its life, I don't think Assassin's Creed really can. I think Ubisoft should put it out to pasture. ODST was controversial for its time. The only reason I say that is because, 1, you're not playing as Spartans. 2, it was short campaign. And Halo ODST is actually where they referenced Destiny for the first time, too, if you didn't notice that. There's a poster in there. Go look for it. YouTube it. There is a couple Halo movies, and there is the Halo Assassin's Creed movie. Halo Assassin's Creed, Jesus, no. The Assassin's Creed movie, which I heard was not very good at all. I was interested in it. I didn't follow through with seeing it because of the reviews. Also, I don't know why in loading screens it flickers like that. So I was having a lot of issues with my NVIDIA Shadow Play. I would be recording for hours. I would get the gameplay would freeze on a still image, but I keep getting audio. I think I finally fixed it by updating my NVIDIA drivers, but I had to use OBS, and I would not recommend using OBS to record gameplay. It's not as sharp and it's not as crisp as NVIDIA Shadow Play, but the file size is smaller, so yeah. That's just me, though. Hopefully I'll have it fixed for next time, but yeah, sorry guys, that flicker's annoying the crap out of me. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but it's annoying the crap out of me. I mean, the series for Assassin's Creed was always kind of far-fetched, but at least it felt somewhat grounded. I like the way they incorporate real-world events. Like, 2 was great because everything was based on real events for those characters' actual deaths, to the point where everything felt somewhat believable. Everything else after that just kind of got weird. Bandicam? I'm hoping that's a joke. I've never known that thing to ever produce anything relative to good quality. So what I'm hearing is I didn't waste my time not seeing it, right? Yeah, so good. Good on me. And yes, I do not discuss my job. That's unfortunately how it has to be. You thought I was out or retired from military service? No, I'm still active. Regrettably sometimes. Because lately they've been doing everything they can to get on my nerves. You know, so guys, after I spent 3 hours or 4 hours playing, getting all the footage for this podcast, and finding out my NVIDIA Shadow Play failed me, I was mad because I had some amazing things in that gameplay that I wanted you guys to see. And then I had to go back hours later and play through the same sections again. Now, I love the game. I don't mind playing it again. But I've been up for 27 hours straight because I have to adjust my sleeping schedule on the fly because I'm going to a different schedule starting next week. So I haven't slept yet in the hopes of adjusting my sleep schedule. So I was exhausted playing the game. So I mean, I'm not saying my gameplay is bad by any means, but there's a lot of things that I did wrong that I just shouldn't have done, that I wouldn't have done if I was actually rested. I made a lot of stupid choices. I didn't die at any point during this gameplay, but it's frustrating because I had such good gameplay footage, and I lost it because NVIDIA Shadowplay is trash. You're correct. The DoD does not like that, and I personally don't like it because I have seen what happens to people and YouTubers who discuss their jobs in detail, and it's not good. There's nothing to be gained from it. If you think sacrificing personal security is worth YouTube views, then I pity the life you lead. And I can say that about a lot of military YouTubers. You signed up to do a job, not make YouTube videos. Grow up. I'm not on days officially now. I'm just adjusting on the fly for training that I don't want. But whatever. I'm not going to get too much into that because this isn't the place for it. Just know that I'm not happy about it whatsoever. I'm kind of getting screwed over right now. I fixed the windows. I fixed the windows. That's my job. What kind of extracurriculars do I like? I mean, so back in my youthful days, I used to play a lot of sports, but now, as a grown, depressed adult, all I really do at this point is just play games and eat food when I'm not working and spend a lot of my time fixing my YouTube channel and thinking of ways to improve my streams. I mean, I recently upgraded my PC, so everything about it is custom made now. Like, it's not a pre-built anymore. Everything about it's custom. It looks phenomenal. It's RGB, syncs up. It's honestly great. I love it. But that's just me. I used to play a lot of sports, but I kind of lost the interest as I got older, mostly because the job I have is very mentally draining. So when I have my days off, I just kind of want to relax and unwind. So that's me personally. Not everyone's like that. It's not healthy to do that. But still, I used to play football, run track. I still love bowling, but that's just me. I mean, discussing your branch is fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, especially because when you're in uniform, it's going to be really hard to deny what you're in, besides telling people like that are see outside of it. But yeah. I mean, I just got done playing D&D, kind of. We were playing Star Wars, some Edge of Destiny, I think it is. I believe that's what it's called. I always kind of forget the name. But it's really good. We played with my buddies, and we were doing a normal D&D game, but I dropped out because I was working every day. We had a session, so I couldn't be there. That is true, Blue, but you know I do it out of love. Have I watched A Few Good Men? No, I actually have not seen that. I know the premise, or I know the idea of it, I've just never actually watched it. Probably kind of a failure on my part, if I'm being honest. I might have to pause for a second and grab a drink. I didn't think I'd be this thirsty, but geez. It's pretty bad. You know, when I first started the podcast, I accidentally had my Twitch key loaded, so I was streaming to Twitch for a second. I didn't even realize it. and I had to turn it off when I realized that my live wasn't coming through. So that was a nice failure on my part earlier today. Now this boss fight you guys are about to watch, the cutscene's happening right now, aggravated me because I was exhausted. And I still had a couple more hours to play to make sure I had enough hours for this podcast. But I actually had to restart the fight because I was getting so mad because I kept getting hit stupidly and it was aggravating me to crap. I know I'm just making excuses at this point. I know it sounds dumb, but you go from pulling off the highest ranking level of combos and everything else and making everything look easy to then getting your butt kicked by this giant looking dope. And I was just getting angry as crap because that shouldn't be happening. I was doing so well, and then the previous gameplay that I lost from the 4 hours of footage that I lost and on my computer being stupid, I destroyed him. And then I go into this, and then I get my butt kicked. It was aggravating. Jeez, guys. Going off on a tangent, I actually catch up, read the chat, and I was just thinking, oh my god. I have not really watched One Piece at all. The only thing I really know about it is apparently the English dub is terrible. That apparently 4Kids just destroyed the dub. Of course I love music, but I mostly listen to metal, rock primarily, and some pop and rap. Very selective with that, though. The only thing I don't really listen to is country, because country is trash. Not all country, just new pop country. It's stupid. I'm sorry, but it's so stupid. It's all the same stuff. All sounds the same. It's a bunch of grown men who haven't worked a day in their lives singing the same tunes and the same type of guitar tuning about problems and struggles they don't actually face. It just sounds dumb. How did 4Kids? I don't know. I personally don't know. I just remember like seeing like people making jokes about it and things like that. That's the only thing I know, is that people were making jokes about how it was ruined or how they chopped it up or how they ruined the story in some way, shape, or form. I don't remember. I just know people made jokes about it a lot. Yeah, you see right there. You know, here's me going to face the guy again because I was getting angry. So I got my butt kicked because I was getting hit like an idiot. I was just throwing myself in his punches like a freaking, what are those dolls again? The ones where you punch them and they come back at you? Yeah, that thing. That was me. It was stupid. Shouldn't have been happening. Recommendation, was it a Yggdrasil? Yggdrasil? Red Brothers of Metal? Sure. I can definitely do that. I'm sure you guys have figured out by now, Blue definitely knows this, that I'm definitely opinionated, and I'm going to give you my honest opinion, so just know that nothing is sacred with me besides Modern Warfare 2. Don't remaster it, please. Leave it alone. Seen both? Okay. I don't know. I just remember seeing a bunch of memes and jokes being made. Again, I don't know why. That's just what I saw. Fortunately, getting a little tired at the moment. Been live for 63 minutes already. Wow, that's pretty surprising. I think I have 2.5 hours of gameplay, if not a little more, At most, I think it's 3. I think it's definitely more than enough for this, though. I know where the story has stopped, so if I start getting close to that, I'll just knock it, but yeah, I know where I'm at. What else you guys got for me? Right, maybe you can't hear that, but I'm like rubbing my hands like, yeah, I'm prepared. Throw it at me. I think he's asking if you stream on Twitch. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, personally speaking, I'm glad I didn't go to college. I mean, everyone who knows me knows that I don't regret not going to college. I don't care. College was not for me in any kind of way, so there's not an ounce of regret for me on that end. I don't... I can't do classroom settings anymore. I just can't. So, yeah, that's just me. There's nothing wrong with going to college. It just doesn't work for me. Even though I know I'm going to have to go back at some point anyways. Just immediately after high school, I had my fill. I was done with it. I know I discussed in my podcast before the reason people go to college immediately after is because they're familiar with how it works. They're familiar with the scheduling and all that nonsense. But yeah, no, for me, just no. No thanks. That camera angle almost got me killed. I mean, if I stream on Twitch every Friday, my podcasts are on Saturdays. I used to stream a lot more on Twitch. I'm probably going to again soon. It's just I haven't been able to get a modicum of consistency from work recently, plus all the personal things that I've been trying to handle. But I've been trying to find ways to give you guys more. Well, I'm not doing less, but I'm away more. So I'm trying to make sure that what you guys put in, you get more out of, which is why I recently redid my Patreon, which is why I'm doing these podcasts on YouTube to keep my followers active and say, hey, I'm alive, I'm doing stuff. Things like this, the small things like that I'm trying to do to keep my accounts active. As I said before, Steve is with friends and family right now. He's not here. I don't know when he's going to be back, but I might even be done by the time he gets back here. So, I'm going to flame him pretty hard next time. I mean, this is probably going to be the worst podcast to date because purely this is just me. I don't like that. I haven't had any time to discuss anything really that I wanted to talk about besides in the beginning. But then again, I haven't been able to get in my head straight since then. Maybe even prior to that. So I don't know. Steven has actual friends. I mean, you're kind of right, but I did just get back from doing D&D with my friends. You know what? Never mind. I mean, I'm not saying you're right. I'm just saying that you're not. That's a nice way to put it. That was cold, man. Come on. The things I've said to Blue, that's child's play. It's not bad at all compared to the things I've said to him. He can handle it. And I don't really care either way. Can't remember if I said this one or not. My grandfather once said, your generation relies too much on technology I left and said, "No, Grandpa, yours does," and unplugged his life support. You know, I've always found it's funny how history repeats itself. So the craze right now is the fact that everyone's on their phones and disconnecting themselves from the world. So, remember when newspaper came out? Remember that? Similar idea. Revolutionary for the time. Everyone had their heads buried in it, walking across the street with it, reading it on the bus, reading it with family. The only reason that it wasn't talked about much anymore by our generation time is because it was a standard. It's the same thing, just repackaged. Only difference now is that the package has more capabilities, obviously. It's the same thing. History repeats itself naturally all the time. Creatures of habit extend generations, even different people. So eventually everything repeats itself no matter what. It's funny how humanity repeats a circle of insanity. Kind of funny when you think about it. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just talking out of my behind. I don't know. But at the same time, it's kind of true when you think about it. Or again, maybe it's not. I don't know. I just work. I don't even work here. Do I get paid for this? Do I get paid to podcast my own channel? The answer is no. I don't get paid. I pay myself in laughter. Which, if you didn't know, is a very poor form of payment. And the package can allow us to mess with our package. Oh, fantastic. How is that no? I get paid in laughter. Doesn't count. I remember dial-up internet and analog cell phones. I remember dial-up internet. I remember hearing that nonsense. Believe it or not, I do remember that. I remember logging on the computer and the only thing I'd ever play on it was freaking I won a 8-ball pinball game. 8-ball pinball. That pinball game in Roller Coaster Tycoon, which at the time I thought was the best game ever. Because you get to take control of your entire theme park. You can commit mass murder with roller coasters. Now, I never really did that. The fact of the matter is, you could do that if you wanted to, if you were sick-minded enough to try it. Now, instead of slow internet, we have slow people. I mean, depending on the context of what you're using that. Do you mean the actually mentally impaired, or just very dumb people? Now, both are fairly plentiful, but only one side of them has an excuse. And you can take a guess which one it is. I'm hoping this podcast becomes more of a staple for my channel than anything else. I want to make it a regular thing. I'm going to try my best to maintain it as, to the extent that I can. It's going to be very difficult, honestly, but I really want to do this, believe it or not. It's different than streaming. I can just sit here and talk. I don't have to worry about handling anything else besides reading comments and banning nonsensical people who don't understand what they're talking about and or just point out things that aren't relevant to what they're saying, such as the last stream that I had. But either way, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm glad you like it. I mean, everyone does. Fortunately, I don't like the fact that I'm hosting this one alone. But it is what it is, I suppose. This is what I was worried about. I don't know what to say at this point. Fortunately, it feels like I've hit a wall. Let's see what else I can bring up that's been unfortunately bothering me to no end. Which, whenever I have those moments, it always goes back to either Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Remember prior I was talking to the idea of temptation, of always seeing somebody else that sparks your interest, and the idea and cheating of being considered more of a social norm. I'm not saying that to the point where I justify it. It's just funny how more it happens. Not funny that people it happens to. I've been cheated on. It's not funny at all. My point being, though, is just it always seems as if there's always something else to spark your interest. You know what I mean? That bat has a nice starfish glued to his face. Gives you a nice target. Those things are really annoying in this game. Blue, I'm not gonna... I'm not going to talk about that. I mean, you're not wrong. I'm just not going to talk about it. Oh, I saw it. You can retract it if you want. It doesn't change the fact that I read it. I love how it originally said leases. Like, I can't afford it, so I'm just paying a lease on it. I'm paying per mileage. My God. Amazing. What do you mean, what? I read it. Oh, we never answered that. Why am I awesome? I don't know. I'm just me. I'm just a guy. So what? I was about wieners for hot dogs. No, I know. No, I know. Like, we all love ballpark franks. Like, I'm just saying. Like, every woman loves her a ballpark frank. Whatever those things are called. Whatever the brand of those stadium hot dogs are that are hot for like a minute and they get cold, but they're still somehow warm on certain parts of them. Other parts are like freezing cold, and you don't know how that's freaking possible. The hot dog itself costs like $10, and the drink was $5. Air was another $1. Like, it was stupid. Was I nervous when I filmed my first YouTube video? Considering that was 10 years ago, I don't know. I couldn't tell you how I felt at that point. Remember, I've been doing YouTube a very long time. When it came to doing military stuff, not at all, because I was so used to being on camera, it didn't matter anymore. So, at that aspect, no. But as far as that, I couldn't tell you. I don't remember anymore. It's been way too long. It goes way further back than that, Blue. Like, if you think that's as far back as it goes, you're wrong. That video was made to be found. And that wasn't even my idea, by the way. That was Steve's. I had a neighbor call the deputy on me while I was walking today. Reason why I was a little miffed was due to not even 3 days ago her and I had a long conversation about the recent weather. So, okay, either there's a joke here I don't get, or why did she call them then? What'd you do? 80 minutes. That's actually pretty good for myself, considering all things considered. And I appreciate you guys for giving me things to talk about, because if it wasn't for you, I would have died this out a long time ago. I also won't lie, I'm incredibly exhausted right now. It's hard for me to even form any kind of coherent thoughts after this amount of time of not sleeping. I think after this thing's done, I'm going right to bed. Little, not necessarily sad, but don't understand. Like, the first time we did the podcast, I had like 20 viewers at one point. Highest we've had tonight is 8. Don't necessarily know why. Trends on YouTube are weird. Oh, now I remember. So I remember this morning, don't ask me why, I was setting up my laptop, and I was on Hulu, logging into my Hulu account, and for some reason, Shrek was on like the recommended things to watch. So I rewatched the entire thing. The movie's messed up, dude. Like, I don't know what was wrong with me when I was a kid, but it was weird. Like, the nonstop animal abuse, turning a snake into a freaking balloon puppet. Same with the frog. Yeah, I heard the story about the lady who called for that. It was stupid. Thinking about adding new merch to my store. I just don't know what I'm gonna do. And my throat is incredibly dry right now. Ugh. Funny thing about suspicious activity, it means you literally could have been doing anything at all. That's so vague, it's stupid. Make a mouse pad? How am I gonna do that? Not even that. Who would make it? Besides, I like my razor one anyway. Silver bullets. Yes. I can support that. I mean, I just been using Teespring. They're the best free service I can think of. I'm not big enough to justify like anything else or whatnot. So I mean, even YouTubers with millions of subscribers have issues with these kind of things. So it's hard for me with nowhere near that count to be able to do anything better than that. So it's kind of what we're stuck with at the moment, because I don't make nearly enough money to justify anything else. If I ever hit millions of subscribers, it'd be a different story. But for now, that's not the case. Blue's talking about a Family Guy reference. Don't worry, Blue. I caught it. Thoughts are going to be empty already with your head shaved. Don't do that. That's like going to basic training with a freaking Air Force shirt on. It's like you want them to hate you. Don't do that to yourself. Unless you want to make basic training harder. I mean, that's the way to do it if that's your intention. The boss, not the boss, but the enemies you see me fighting right now in the game are so annoying. I hate them. They're so incredibly stupid. Well, I mean, having a shaved head normally is fine, but a lot of them take it as you did it purely for basic training, and then they'll make your life hell for it, which kind of sucks. Ugh, 87 minutes. I'm actually amazed to be able to go this long. Almost at an hour and a half. I think I might cut it off soon, guys. I'm really tired, and fortunately not having a partner here is making it hard for me to stay on track. I have no one to bounce off for me or cover for me when I'm lagging behind. And yeah, I grew it out a little bit. Give him something to cut, you know. I understand trying to be comfortable, but yeah, I wouldn't make your life any more difficult than you have to be. Really, Blue? Are we doing this again? And she said that directly to Blue as well. Key thing here. I'm going to cut it off in the next minute so it ends exactly where I need it to. Not to me, are you sure? Well, this episode kind of became informal and off the rails, but it is what it is. Next week will be different, so this is kind of a throwaway episode. That's alright. Next week will be better, guys, I promise. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm going to go pass out and sleep. I'm exhausted. Thank you guys for coming by. I will see you guys next week, next Friday, for when I stream Devil May Cry on Twitch, and the following episode of Streaming the Void episode 4. Thank you guys. Links in the below to connect with me and Steve. I'll see you all next time.